David Anderson. I've just heard of the survival rundown for the first time. I understand it took about 1,000 hours of auditing. Could you please tell us about it and when or why it would come into play? Thanks and keep up the good work. Okay, survival rundown. So this is a Scientology thing, obviously, and it is something that goes back to the 1980s. This was a series of, a rundown in Scientology, first off, is just a series of actions that you do. It's a step-by-step. You do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This can involve auditing actions and or training actions, but generally speaking, rundowns tend to be auditing actions. In this case, with a survival rundown, you have a combination of training actions and auditing actions. Not entirely unlike a superpower, which is delivered in Clearwater, which also has auditing and what you might call training, or in Scientology, there's some administrative actions that you do on that rundown. It's actually superpowers, a series of rundowns. So the survival rundown is another thing. It's not superpower, it's different, but it's lower level bridge actions that consist of TRs and objective processing. So I've talked lots and lots about that in past videos. I'll go over that briefly again here. Okay, let's see. L. Ron Hubbard developed a kind of auditing called objective processing, which involves looking around rooms, looking around locations, touching things, picking things up, moving things around, that kind of stuff. It's not subjective. It's objective. It has to do with objects in the material universe. So objective processing's goal is to orient a person in present time, get them situated attention-wise with their attention in present time, and thereby, right, you're raising them up or you're helping them or assisting them because you're taking away attention that the person has fixated or stuck in the past. That's the idea with objectives. I'm not saying that that's what it does. I'm saying that's what L. Ron Hubbard claims it does. Okay, big difference there. I don't think objective processing is a good thing to be doing, but this is what Scientology claims it does. So you do hours and hours and hours, tens of hours, hundreds of hours on different objective processes. For example, there's a series of objective processes where the auditor and the pre-clear sit, and the auditor says, they're both sitting there knee to knee, or the auditor's kind of moved in on the guy, and so he's real close to him, and he says, "Give me that hand." Right? And the pre-clear has to give him his hand. And he says, "Thank you." And he puts the hand back. "Give me that hand." "Good." "Give me that hand." "Good." "Give me that hand." "Good." He just keeps giving him his hand. And then they cycle to, this is called the CCHs, CCH1. And then there's CCH2 and 3 and 4, and they cycle through these. And this is just one kind of objective process where you are, like CCH2, I think, is where you put your hands up and the other guy puts his hands up against them and you say, "Put your hands up against mine, follow them and contribute to their motion." And then the auditor moves his hands around in different patterns and the pre-clear has to follow. And over time, they move away from each other gradually. Like they get maybe an inch apart and then a foot apart and then, like 3 feet apart. And that's another kind of objective process where you're just trying to follow the motions of another person. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of these things. In fact, there's a big-ass, thick book full of objective processes. The survival rundown was an effort to take the most basic and common objective processes that are run on most, cases, on most people, and put them into a rundown along with the TRs, TRs 0 to 4 and TRs 6 through 9, all of them. So you do the communication drills and you do the control drills. I've detailed these in the past, so I'm not going to go over all of those again, but TR 0 to 4 and TR 6 to 9, right? And so the survival rundown is first doing the TRs and then doing these, learning how to do the objective auditing with another person, and then you audit them, they audit you, back and forth on these objectives. And you said it can go for 1,000 hours. Not always. Sometimes people take significantly less. Sometimes people take 1,000 hours, sometimes people take more. It's not particularly graded by how many hours it takes you to get through it, but by how long it takes to get through all the battery of objective processes that are run on you. And I think there's on the survival rundown, about 12 or so different processes that are run. It's not meant to take that long. Like 1,000 hours is a long time to be auditing. And so that seems at the upper end of what it probably takes people to get through that action. But, at the same time, I couldn't say for sure. I haven't been in a Church of Scientology in quite a few years, and this survival rundown is something that was developed in the 80s and then canceled because it wasn't something L. Ron Hubbard put together. And then Miscavige brought it back. And so with the golden age of tech phase 2, which I think came out in 2014 or so, this survival rundown came out as part of it. So it was previously called the TRs and Objectives Co-Audit. And so there was a survival rundown in the 80s. Then that got canceled, and there was the TRs and Objectives Co-Audit, which went for many, many years. And then that got canceled, basically replaced by this current survival rundown, which is pretty much how I described it's the same thing. So interesting that Miscavige, that it was canceled back in the day and then brought back, but whatever. Miscavige is just another example of Miscavige getting to get away with whatever he wants to as he creates Scientology as he wants it. So that's what that's all about.